Hey there, it's Silver. This is The Last Flame. The Last Flame is an auto battler that just recently entered into early access, and it actually first caught my eye because of its art style, so let's start there. Its art style is going for a really nice looking, sort of like saturated high fantasy look where a lot of the colors are really amplified and kind of in your face, and it just looks really nice in my opinion. But in addition to its pretty good art style and its pretty nice character designs, you've also got a really good UI, which is somewhat rare, I find, in this genre, especially in the early access versions of this genre, because the genre has a lot of crunchy numbers under the hood and stuff. You gotta display a lot of statistics and all that, and that can sometimes mean your menus and things are a little bit messy. But that's just how the genre often is, and it usually takes until pretty late in an early access campaign in order for some of that to be sort of sorted out. That's just how it generally works. But in this case, they've obviously put a lot of effort into the presentation of the game, both in terms of its overall art style and how its menus look and function. And overall, I think the game's UI and UX is really good, surprisingly so. Even a lot of its other menus are just pleasant looking and easy to use. You've got your map menu, which is your sort of Slay the Spire style of node-based map as you go through various branches up until the final boss of each chapter, and that works exactly like how you would expect. But you've also got things like the nice-looking hero selection menus that show you all the information you would need to know, and with nice hover-over tooltips, and also an advanced tooltip option, which allows you to middle-click in order to get definitions for all of the keywords that are happening in a tooltip, which is a nice feature. Your shop menu is nice and colorful and presents all of the items and information that you would need in a really obvious way, again with the tooltips being available and all the advanced tooltip stuff and all that, so that's handy. And you've also got things like the DPS meters on the top right of the screen, which are actually more than just DPS meters. Now, if these annoy you, you can just turn them off, which is handy, but I actually quite like that they're there because I'm particularly bad at this game, and having that little bit of a useful metric there is nice to have. But the DPS meters will show a breakdown of all 3 damage types and how much of each person is doing, which is really cool. And they also show all of the healing being done by any units as well as any shielding that they're putting on the party. So this means that you get a really condensed sort of attack and support breakdown for all of your units, all handy on the top right of the screen there, which is pretty cool. So the way it works is when you start a run, you will choose 2 different heroes. You'll have a selection of like 5 or 6, and you'll get to pick 2 of them, and that will be your starting party. And each of the next 3 battles, you will select another hero until you have 5, and 5 characters is your max party size. After that, you won't generally get to select more unless you go through a particularly tough elite battle or a boss battle, which will allow you to select more heroes, and these will instead go into a sort of deck of heroes that you can have at the bottom of the screen there. And you can swap out any of the heroes on the field with any of the ones in your sort of hand when you have more than 5. And then you will select nodes on this map and do various battles, and the battles will of course get progressively more difficult. And there are normal battles, and there are also some elite star battles which have some better rewards, and some super hard battles that you can sometimes get a hold of, which will allow you to do things like get new heroes and some relics and stuff. And then of course eventually you're going to make it all the way up to a final boss of a chapter, beat them, and you'll move on to the next chapter. And there are generally 3 chapters in a normal length run. Every hero that you can choose has a full list of statistics like maximum health and attack speed and attack damage and all that good stuff. They also have a list of sort of things that they are good at that it just shows you to help you understand what roles that they should fill in a party. And they also have a passive and an active ability, and as they do their auto attack, they'll build up mana. Once their mana is full, they will cast their active automatically. And of course you do have full control at the beginning of every battle as to where each of your characters actually starts. They cannot start adjacent to an enemy, but they can start pretty much anywhere else, and you can drag them all over the map in terms of however you want the initial formation to be. And this is really important in this game, even more so than in a lot of auto battlers. The positioning of your characters is super tactically important, and the last one you drag will actually be the one that the enemies will start sort of taunted towards. So you've got to make sure to put people not only in the right positions, but also in the correct order. And then once you've got everything figured out, you simply press start and the battle goes automatically, and you hope that all your characters don't die. If you do start to lose characters, you will lose this blue resource in the bottom left of the screen there called Flame. This is basically your health. losing a character will lose you some flame, and as you lose more characters in a single battle, the cost will stack up to be quite high. And if you completely run out of flame, then your run is over. That's how you lose. There will also sometimes be some random events on the map, and occasionally these events may ask you to sacrifice some flame for some sort of effect. Usually it's an optional encounter that allows you to burn some of this flame in order to get some sort of really nice effect, or maybe a high rarity recipe or something like that. And generally, if you're asked to sacrifice flame, then it will give you something beneficial, something really nice in exchange. There are only a couple of ways to actually restore flame. One is to get to a campfire node on the map, and one of the various things you can do at a campfire is actually to sacrifice about 15 flame in order to upgrade one of your crafted items to a higher rarity, or you can rest to restore up to 25 flame per rest. And the other main way to restore it is to beat the final boss of a chapter, which will restore an amount of flame to you dependent on the difficulty that you're playing at the time. Every time you successfully win a battle, you'll get some rewards, including some items, and the itemization in this game is also a super important part of it. In fact, it's probably the most important part of actually how you survive the later areas. Everyone can be equipped with 3 different items, and there are 2 different kinds of sort of item that you can actually get. You can get some basic items of various rarities that provide some small amounts of stats to your characters, like how much mana they have, or how much mana they regenerate, or what their maximum health is, small bonuses like that. But you'll also occasionally get some recipes, and the recipes are very important because they give you much more powerful items that have some special effects that you can only find on those. And these are ideally what you want to equip everyone with. The recipes do have rarities, and a higher rarity version of a recipe will just enhance whatever it is that it does, and you'll find lots of very powerful stuff that is legendary only, and you can usually only get legendary recipes either from final boss battles or from the shop, but they cost a lot of money to buy from the shop. But the way the recipes work is you have to actually combine the recipe with one of those other more basic items in order to create it. That's how you actually craft it. And whenever you do this, the crafted item will have both the effects of the recipe itself, whatever that item is supposed to do, but also the effects of the heirloom item that you use to craft it. So it'll have the effects of both in one slot, which is super powerful because, like I said, you only have 3 item slots per character. So combining the effects like this is very, very powerful. And of course, the ultimate end goal is to have a ton of epic or legendary gear on all of your characters that all specializes them into doing something, usually whatever it is that they're supposed to do, whatever their roles are. You want a set of items that's really good for that particular thing. So each character is going to be very highly specialized by the end of a run to do something specific, like build attack speed super fast and also have some sort of shielding ability they use every certain number of attacks. And so when you combine these, you get like an attack speed shield machine. And that's how you want to build that particular character. And you're sort of going to have a party of 5 characters built like this by the end. But the itemization isn't the only way to make your character stronger, because they also have a rank, and they get a couple of experience every battle that you complete. They gain a couple of XP for. But as you complete battles, you'll also get these trophies, and you can click on the trophies and give them to characters for 5 XP per each trophy in order to rank them up much faster. This is how you are ideally going to rank them up, because doing it passively is very, very slow and you'll get outpaced very quickly. So you want to amass these trophies to level people up faster. And whenever you rank them up, they will just have their statistics improve in general, like a level up, but you'll also get a couple of different boosts for them depending on what level they are. If it's an even level, like 2 or 4, then you'll be able to select a new passive trait that is from a randomized list of 3 you'll get to choose one of, and you generally want to choose one that, makes sense for whatever it is that they do. And on the odd-numbered levels, you'll get to enhance one of their statistics directly, like increasing their attack damage or increasing their maximum health or something like that, and you'll be given a list of 4 different stats that you can increase, and you pick one of. Now, one of the staples of auto battlers is actually a little bit different in this game, and that's the trait system. And a lot of auto battlers, the way that it works is every character has some sort of trait, like dragon or thief or something like that. And if you get multiple characters with that trait, then it adds up and gives you like a set bonus. So if you get 4 dragon characters, then you get some sort of bonus. And if you get 6 dragon characters, then you get an even bigger bonus or something like that. That's usually how it works. That's a very common mechanic for these auto battlers. But in this case, you actually don't have that mechanic here. There is no like trait system that builds up passive bonuses depending on what your party is composed of. However, it is instead replaced by a different mechanic called an origin. And the way that it works is there's a whole bunch of different origins available, and whenever you go to a camp node, you will get a selection of 6 different origins, and you can pick one of in order to apply it to your whole party. So whatever origin you choose, it applies its passive effects to everyone all at once, and this is sort of the replacement for a trait system. And every time you go back to a camp node, then you will get 6 more origins, and you can choose to change the one that you currently have equipped with one of those for free if you want to. So picking an origin or changing one you currently have is always free, but you can only do it once per camp. These are often really potent effects that have all sorts of powerful uses, but they are also highly specialized, and you're only going to want to choose the one that makes the most sense for whatever party composition you're currently using. And since there are so many of them, this means that there's actually quite a lot of build variety when it comes to getting your party of 5 characters. And all this comes together to mean that there's actually a lot of build variety in general, like in just the full game sense, because you've got a lot of different characters to choose from, each having their own passives and actives, as well as all the various different pieces of gear that you can give them, and all of these specialized traits that you can give them on level up, and the origin that you can pick for your party. So when you put all these moving parts together, you get a pretty tactical experience that it's definitely got a lot of strategic build value to it when it comes to how you want each run to go, which I appreciate because that's sort of what auto battlers are about, right? They're about having each run be its own sort of self-contained strategy. In addition to all of this, you've also got relics. Usually you will get these as a result of very tough battles, but you'll get a choice between like 3 or 4 different relics, and you can pick one. And these are passive effects that also apply to your entire party, and they can be all sorts of different things. They're even activatable relics that you can pay some sort of resource to use. There are some that simply apply a passive to everyone all the time, and some that only activate in specific situations, and there are a whole bunch of different ones that you can find. And there are also these sacrificial relics, which is an interesting mechanic. Sometimes you'll find a relic with a little red symbol next to it, and these, as an additional cost for choosing them, you have to actually sacrifice one of the relics you currently have. So, normally choosing a relic is free. You just pick whichever one that you want and you get it. But for a sacrificial one, you've got to have an additional relic on your person at the moment that you don't want, or that you want to sacrifice for it. But of course, as a cost, the sacrificial relics tend to be really powerful. They have very strong effects in order to make them very tempting to try. So overall, my current view of The Last Flame is it's a very promising entry into the genre. It's got a couple of neat ideas that might help it stand out a bit as the early access continues to develop it, and it gets more features and it just sort of fleshes out all of its various bits. And I think it's going to be in a pretty good place once it gets a little bit more of a balanced pass and maybe a little bit more variety in terms of what some of the character roles can be and stuff like that. I think they have a really good system here and some good ideas. And I really like its presentation, and its UI, its UX in general is just very solid, like uncommonly so for an early access auto battler. It's just got really nice, pleasant to use menus and stuff, and its presentation overall is quite good looking. And I'm really bad at it. I find this game to be really, really hard. I think it's because I'm just not very good at positioning, but I have had a lot of problems beating the final boss of the 3rd chapter. And I think I just need to get better at correctly positioning my party to be able to fight against multiple fronts at once. When I'm fighting against one big thing, I'm pretty good at positioning correctly, but when I'm fighting against like 2 or 3 different fronts of enemies coming in from different directions all at once, I find it a lot more difficult, and oftentimes that's the case with the big final boss battles that spawn a lot of adds and things, and I'm not very good at dealing with that yet, so I've still got a ways to go in understanding how the strategy works for this game. But even though I find it very difficult, I think it is a good entry in the genre, and if you're a fan of auto battlers, then you should definitely check it out because it does a lot right. So I'll put the link in the description below this video to the Steam store page for The Last Flame, so you can go and check it out yourselves. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.